Alright, now let's look at damage to or destruction of the goods. Right? Now, obviously, things happen when they're shipped. Alright, let's talk about the damage as a result of that. Damage to identified goods before the risk of loss passes. Okay? Remember when we talked about risk of loss? This is before the risk of loss passes, so the seller still has it. You have a total loss. Contract is avoided or annulled. So the contract's dead. A partial loss, the buyer has the option. Remember, the risk of loss has not passed yet. The buyer may treat the contract as avoided or accept the goods subject to an allowance or deduction for the contract price. It's at the buyer's option. Now, damage to identified goods after the risk of loss passes. Okay, so now the buyer has the risk of loss. Partial or total destruction, buyer's loss. Yeah, buyer's loss. Buyer may be able to recover from the person in possession. Who was that? The carrier. Okay. Damage to unidentified goods. Generally, no risk of loss passes to the buyer. Okay. So, if the seller still has the risk of loss, the buyer has the option. Once the buyer has the risk of loss, the buyer is at a loss and has to go after whoever the carrier was. So the general rules. Now, sales on approval and right to return. Well, what the heck is that? Alright, a sale on approval is a sale that is not complete until the buyer approves the goods. This is those, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Meaning that for that 30 days, you have the right to approve or disapprove of the goods. If you don't like it, you return it back to the seller at no obligation to you. Sale or return. Completed sale with right to return goods. Okay? The sale's done, but you may return them. Okay? You go and you buy a TV. Well, you don't like the TV. You return it. It's that easy. Consequences of sale on approval. Title and risk of loss remain with the seller under a sale on approval. So you get it, you get the goods, but you haven't approved them. The seller still has the risk of loss. Consequences of sale or return. Title and risk of loss passes to the buyer, as in the case of the ordinary sale. All right, so you buy the TV and you break it. You break it. Can you return it? No. Okay. Special rules on transfer of title. Okay. A sale by an entrustee, someone who's entrusted to the property. Owner entrusts goods to a merchant. The merchant has the power to transfer the entrustor's title to anyone who buys in the ordinary course of business. All right. So this is someone else's cell phone. Okay. I'm holding it for them. I'm going to sell it. I have the right to sell it. Consignment. Transfer of possession of goods for purpose of sale. It's an agency relationship. I've actually done this before. I've sold jewelry on consignment, meaning that, hey, I gave the jewelry to the jewelry store. They sold it for however much I wanted them to sell it for, but they probably marked up the price and they kept those profits. Once it's sold, I got my money. All right? Estoppel. The true owner may be estopped from asserting ownership and denying the right of another person to sell the property to good faith purchasers. All right? So, someone goes to a pawn shop, okay? And they buy something there. It's stolen property. Did they know it was stolen property? No. So they get to keep that property. Okay? But make sure you have to understand this. It has to be a good faith purchaser. They have to legitimately know the thing wasn't stolen. Okay? This is not buying something out of the back of somebody's van. This is going to a legitimate pawnbroker and buying it from them. When documents of title transfer ownership, all right? Once that happens, once that piece of paper moves, guess what? So does title. When documents must be recorded or filed. Typically, this happens with your real property and your car, right? When you buy a house, that deed is kept on file downtown at the courthouse. When you buy a car, you have that piece of paper that shows ownership along with anyone that has a security interest in it. Avoidable title. A buyer may keep property if they are a bona fide purchaser. If you buy something in good faith and don't know that it's stolen, it's over. Okay? But if it's not done in good faith, if you think something might be stolen, guess what? That has to go back to the original owner. It all depends on good faith. Alright?